This is a very serious situation, but it's eminently fixable. Ladies and gentlemen, fasten your seatbelts. But let me tell you, this movie can and will have a happy ending.
You ever stop and realize how fragile all this is? Wouldn't take much to throw us right back into barbaric times. All you'd have to do would be eliminate electricity.
New York, one of the biggest cities in the world, plunges into darkness in the blink of an eye. It's just after 4 p.m. on August 14th, 2003, and an unthinkable disaster becomes reality. A cascade of power failures shuts down electricity in southeast Canada and across 8 northeastern states. Cities like New York are brought to a complete standstill. Hundreds of people are trapped in subway tunnels, while the traffic above becomes a nightmare of gridlock. In all, 55 million people lost power for up to 2 days. The main culprit, a sagging high-voltage power line in northern Ohio that brushed up against an overgrown tree.
Eliminate electricity, that's all, but completely. So, no electricity, no lights. You're back to candles and lanterns, campfires and bonfires. Batteries couldn't be recharged. Generators couldn't be refueled because fuel is pumped electrically. So is water, by the way. So no lights, no fuel, no water, no computers. And computers run everything. Police wouldn't help you. They'd be gone at the first sign of trouble. They'd be home protecting their own families. So with the Army and the National Guard, you'd be alone. You'd be on your own. You'd be SOL and JWF.
You might think George Carlin was funny, but this is hardly a humorous subject. Just listen to esteemed U.S. Senator Angus King.
There's a weird calmness about this hearing. This is not calm. The Russians are already in the grid. This is not a threat. This is happening. We are under attack. We are in a very dangerous place. I just think this has to be an emergency, an urgent situation. What would the catastrophic consequences be at a human level if you tried to live in a non-electricity world given the way we built our civilization?
Do you think that adversaries of the United States have the capability right now to shut down the power grid?
Yeah, they do. I mean, I think that there are very malign actors who are trying, even as we speak. There are thousands of attacks on all aspects of the energy sector and the private sector generally. I mean, we plant, for example. It's happening all the time.
In February 2022, 60 Minutes ran a story that took a hard look at the vulnerability of the U.S. power grid.
John Willinghoff was chairman of FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, a small government agency with jurisdiction over the U.S. high-voltage transmission system. Willinghoff commissioned a study to see if a physical attack on critical transformers could trigger cascading blackouts.
It was actually a very shocking result to us that there's very few number of substations you need to take out in the entire United States to knock out the entire grid.
Knock out the entire grid?
That's correct.
How many would it take to knock out putting the entire country in a blackout?
Less than 20.
The report was leaked to the Wall Street Journal. It found the U.S. could suffer a coast-to-coast blackout if saboteurs knocked out just 9 substations.
That's right, 9 out of 55,000 substations. Between 2010 and 2020 alone, there were more than 700 documented attacks on this nation's electric grid.
A lot of people, when they think of a new, what comes to mind is the image of mushroom clouds, cities laid to waste. But that may not be the way a nuclear war actually looks today. So if you detonate a nuclear weapon 200 kilometers or higher in outer space, people on the ground might not even know that it happened. But it will send an electromagnetic pulse charge down and damage all the components critical to the electric grid.
In other words, a nuclear explosion in the atmosphere above the United States could unleash a burst of invisible electrical energy that within a fraction of a second could wash over this country and overload all of our most sensitive electronic devices, including the nation's power grid.
The EMP pulse is a very dangerous threat, and it's a realistic threat. It's something that would basically, if you're not nuclear hardened, it will basically shut down any digital computer that is operating in the range of the EMP. So if you set off an EMP, a high altitude burst EMP, basically every light in this hotel is going to go off, every computer is going to go off, every cell phone is going to go off. That's what an EMP does.
The power of an EMP is potentially devastating, and it's an open secret among nuclear-capable countries.
We actually
Oh, God.
Is it going to keep going?
There were plans.
Thanks, guys.
The first strike plan to take out our electrical power system with an EMP attack. It's not speculation. We know that. We learned it about the Russians when the USSR collapsed. There were a number of defectors that left Russia and came to the United States. So they showed up here with boxes, suitcases full of data showing what the Russians planned to do with an EMP attack, what the Russians had given in information to the Chinese. Kim Jong-un of North Korea threatened an EMP attack.
Famed insurer Lloyd's of London issued a comprehensive report about the risk of a major geomagnetic storm to the world's economy. Lloyd's pointed out that a Carrington-level extreme geomagnetic storm is almost inevitable in the future, and also mentioned that the duration of any outage could last up to 2 years and is largely dependent on the availability of spare replacement transformers. Most Americans have no idea, but in 2012, there was a massive disturbance on the surface of the sun. This solar superstorm, considered the most powerful in more than 150 years, sent a burst of energy hurling through space at over 5 million miles per hour, narrowly missing Earth by a matter of days. This is a fixable problem, and it's completely bipartisan, but we need to come together around solutions that will work. Legislation to provide structure and regulatory discipline, and then people on the ground to get it done. The highly credentialed EMP Commission has provided detailed recommendations in their early reports to Congress. On our website, we've outlined a few of the highest priority action steps to protect our civilian infrastructure, and we will ensure we will follow through. How we respond to the looming threat facing our grid will ultimately be judged by history. Visit our website at griddownpowerup.com and send emails to your legislators, utility companies, and regulators, and urge them to take action now to protect America's future. We know that in most civic causes, execution tends to fail because there's no follow through. To overcome this issue, we are supporting and sharing proceeds with 501c3 organizations with a history of fighting for grid protection. We also urge you to contact your local government officials to demand that this Achilles heel in America's defense is addressed now.
officials do what their constituents want them to do. And so if you are concerned about our electrical power system surviving, you need to let your legislator know how you feel. And if enough people make enough noise, we can get this through. I know we can get this done.
There have been times in our nation's history when the American people have stepped up and critical changes were made for the common good, which saved our country in dark times.
Woo, that looked good. Nice. David Tice, get on up here, David. Film producer, director David Tice has a little something to say, plus some good right there, right? Get it, David.
Good to be
That
with
looks
you
amazing.
guys.
By the way, was that an attack on the power grid? Is that why it froze?
Maybe that was
I think
it.
they did not want you to see that. Go ahead, David.
Anyway, so glad to be here. I wasn't given too many minutes, although the movie kind of tells the story for me anyway. So now you've seen the 8-minute version, and I can't say you necessarily enjoyed it. It was not my intent for you to enjoy it. It's to activate you. And so hopefully you are going to be activated. I'm going to tell you how you can watch the whole 56-minute version. We're actually doing a relaunch, a commercial launch, where it's going to be available on Amazon as well as YouTube. If you're chomping at the bit to see it right now, you can see it on Salem Now, salemnow.com. But really thankful for Bridget Gabriel and Dr. Frank, because they essentially made part of my speech for me in talking about activating us as citizens. And we citizens in this room are about as good as it gets. And therefore we have to act with passion. And I provide the facility on our website at griddownpowerup.com under the participate tab, where you can just click your mouse a few times, add your home address, and you can write letters to your legislators, your regulators, and your board of directors of your major public utilities, and tell them that we got to fix this. Now, we need to convert this movie into a movement, and that's why we need you citizens to jump through hoops and make this happen. So there's 2 areas where I need you to act. One is the outreach, again, from the participate tab, and we make that very, very, very easy. The second way is to enlist your friends. You guys all have emails, and you're talking in carpools, you're talking to your friends, emails. Tell your friends, 100 of your friends about this movie. Tell them to participate on the participate tab and send these letters. Tell them to send this to 100 friends. This movie needs to become like Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. It needs to be that big. And you know why? Because this is life and death. So when I was making this movie about halfway through, I realized how important this was, because I recognized I was a NASA grandfather. So you know why? Because I realized my grandkids were 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off. Houston, we have a problem. We have a problem because I've lived a great life. I've had incredible enjoyment. I've raised kids and now raising grandkids, but I want them to experience the same great life. And if you look at North Korea, Russia, China, and Iran right now, and you look what's in their playbooks, and you look at the fact that we very likely could be in World War III right now, starting, and you look at the fact how people are coming across the border, military-aged men, et cetera, and how much threat that we're under. We need this to be a movement. But I think God's got a plan for this movie to explode. Right now, about 500,000 people have seen the movie, but our plan after this relaunch is we're going to get seen by 100 million people. So God's got a plan. I think that I was in my social club literally a month ago on a Tuesday, 10 o'clock at night. Who happened to be in the exact same geo-coordinate with me at that time in Dallas, Texas? Tucker Carlson. So I rode down the elevator with Tucker, and Tucker said he'd heard about the movie, and he wanted to help. He said it's one of the most important causes out there, and he wants to have Dennis Quaid on for an hour. So that's going to happen in the next few weeks. Okay, so I already missed one of my stops. We need to enlist grid warriors. So you guys, I want you all to be grid warriors. So I've got some nice looking hats. I've got some very ugly shirts, but I want everybody to become a grid warrior in the next few months. I'll tell you another idea where I think God is helping us. I'm sorry, I don't have one of those guns to get it really far back there. But I've got more in my booth. I'm releasing this news really early on to this group. Here's my plan that I think is part of God's plan to actually not just get this movement going, but actually to execute and get this done. So Dr. Peter Pry spoke with me at an Orange County event that Luke put together about a year ago. And unfortunately, he just passed away. Interestingly, he wrote a book called EMP Manhattan Project. This book. Guess when the 5th anniversary of publication of this book was? Only August 23rd of this year. Guess what movie has come out talking about the Manhattan Project? Oppenheimer. How many people in the room have seen Oppenheimer? Interestingly, Oppenheimer has been seen by 31 million Americans right now. So Oppenheimer was about the biggest scientific, massive project that went on for 3 years to create an atomic bomb that allowed us to save the country and beat Imperial Japan. So Peter Pry felt like we've won the policy battles. We've actually passed legislation, Critical Infrastructure Protection Act, SIPA, Trent Franks, Arizona representative, and Ron Johnson passed that bill, and then Donald Trump passed a bill. But then unfortunately it's been obstructed inside DOE, DHS, and DOD. It's also been obstructed by regulatory capture. So what Pry felt like had to happen is we have to overcome all the bureaucracy, the morass, the regulatory capture, and that's why we need a Manhattan Project. Well, guess what? The Matt Damon character, which was General Leslie Groves, he was the one that was appointed by President Truman. He made it happen. He essentially overcame all the obstacles. So I would urge you to see that movie again. So what we're going to do with our campaign is we're going to go out and we're going to get Matt Damon. And we're going to have Dennis Quaid go on TV, on Tucker Carlson. And even if we don't get Matt Damon, we're going to make the case to the American public that we need a Manhattan Project. And we need this today. This is a bipartisan cause. And therefore, hopefully we get Matt Damon involved to make this happen. We're going to get Oliver Stone and Dennis Quaid. We're going to get Sean Penn. We're going to get Democrats behind this. So we're going to make this happen. So at the end of our movie, our 56-minute movie, we have about 2 minutes at the end where we talk about how America has had their back up against the wall before. And we've overcome it. We built a national highway system. We overcame racial segregation. And we ended up converting our industrial economy to an arsenal of democracy to defeat Nazi Germany. We can do this again. So we need to stay positive, make our calls, our emails to 100 of our friends, pray, and we're going to make this happen. So let's choose power up, not grid down. Thank you.
David Tice. Hey, one more time, David. Where can they see the movie?
GridDownPowerUp.com. You can see it at Salem Now. If you see me at dinner, I can write down a password protected, website where you can actually see the movie.
You got a booth out front?
We have a booth out there where we have shirts and hats.
All right, go see David to download that movie and be able to watch it and share it with your friends. David, thank you so much. A couple of quick notes real quick before I send you all off. I'll throw a few out and get some left up here. There we go. Okay, so if you're a delegate, I'm supposed to remind you you're voting later tonight. So make sure you stay in touch with leadership so we can vote later, because we got to get that done later tonight as well. Right now, we're going to break down and set up for dinner. So I need everybody in here, get out.